Welcome to episode 25, a quarter of 100. That's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good number.
It's more than my average at cricket was batting.
Very good. So we're having a bit of a special episode today, one where every podcast has, called the mailbag. And basically the aim is we have our WhatsApp group on the Mentorship where they can ask any questions they want. And we've had that many questions we thought, well, let's make a pod. Let's talk about a little bit more detail and share it with the world.
100%. Like a lot of the questions we get in the mentorship group are absolute gold.
They are very good.
That's why you should be a member of it.
They are a very good group.
We've got a fantastic little group now, asking lots of questions, helping each other, which is fantastic. Yes. And like, obviously some of them have been with us for a few months now, so they're giving wisdom and knowledge to the younger ones who have just started. So it's a really nice little group. But these questions are from students, the mentorship group. Hopefully these are questions that are really relevant.
Well, firstly, thank you for posting the questions. Very useful. We asked you for some key questions that you wanted to hear more about, and we've picked some select ones, some select people to maybe just give like an all-round approach. So apologies if your question hasn't been read out, but I think we're trying to cover all bases here. In
100%. And some of them are very much duplicated, but we didn't want to kind of leave anyone out or leave any question out, because wording it differently for other people might resonate with someone better.
Yeah. Great. So let's get us going then. So these are questions from Sai.
Yep.
And firstly is, how do you know your target market?
Quick fire answer is knowing your unique selling point. Long form answer is making sure you understand your demographic, and then you'll be able to target the market that they spend their money and time in.
Okay, well, question is off the back of that, like, how do you work out your USP though?
Unique selling point. So how do you work out your unique selling point? What are you best at getting results at? Can be one of the kind of questions you'd ask yourself, but also what are you passionate about? Like, where do you see yourself in the industry? What is your niche? So Sai's a really good example. I spoke to her this weekend about it. She's really into plyometrics training.
Oh, very good, yeah.
And she was like, but not every person can do this. And I said, great. So then why can't you teach them?
Yeah.
Okay, I said, how did you learn? Oh, well, I just practiced and I did some research. Okay, well, you've got experience. You've done it yourself. There you go. You're developing a product. Yeah. And I said, the percentage of that in the target market is probably very little. But I said, ultimately, you can start marketing towards this and build your knowledge. And I can see this working really well with sports teams we discussed. But I said also, think about the practical application of you doing it in the gym on training clients. It looks amazing. And we're in a very much social media world at the moment where short form content seems to be the winner. And I think if a lot of people in a commercial gym saw you doing plyometric press-ups, especially as a woman, which is not commonly seen, then people will be like, oh, I'd love to do that because it looks great on social media.
Quite a difference, isn't it?
Exactly. So it's about how do you market it. Yep. So I've said to her, like, a little competition she could run in the gym is how many plyometric press-ups could you run? Could you do it, like, for instance, without stopping continuously? And I think she can do about 5 or 6. Okay, she gets a little leaderboard going. Everyone in the gym's trying it. She raises awareness of her profile, but she also gauges a target market because it's who's interested in doing it. Yeah. So it's a little cylindrical. Is that how you say it?
Very nice.
It's basically creating a little circle of how you would kind of, 1, target people, but 2, build them into your service and how you get your service and products actually being sold to the mass and to people. Because I've said to Sai, like, I can see her doing it with sports teams, general pop, but also running really basic workshops on it, more advanced workshops on it, but then maybe developing an online program on how you could do plyometrics, because it is very taxing on the body. So it might be a case of, well, how do you build up to it? What foundational work do you need to do? Target market, going back to it, is about knowing what products you can offer, and often it's down to your passions and your experiences.
Yeah. Good, great. So how this is a question which is important, I think. How do you trust that your services and what you're trying to sell is right for you and right for your client? How do you trust it? You've designed a package and a service, but how do you actually trust that that's going to work and be right?
Very simple answer would be, does your product match up with the result the client wants? So for instance, if the client was coming to me for a photo shoot in bodybuilding, I would be like, you're probably not with the right service. I would refer them on to a friend or another coach that I know that would offer that service better. And I'd hope that would happen vice versa. And it has many a time in the industry. If someone, for instance, wanted to get into powerlifting or weightlifting, that would be my bag. I'd be confident I would get that result. So it's about being honest with what results you can get and being very specific with the result and problem you're solving. If someone wanted to be the best personal trainer possible, they would come to Fitasylum, undoubtedly.
Moving off of the target audience sense, you've got a job in a gym, but how do you know that gym actually has the right target market for you? Is there a process before you go for that job job at the gym where you work out actually what the target market is, or is it something that you find out when you're there, or how does that work?
So this is a little bit more complex. First of all, it depends on how confident you are with your services and products and how well you know them. So you might want to go into more of an independent gym that does your product or service better, i.e. they have the facilities. So if you're a gymnastics coach, you might want to go to a gym that has rings and other gymnastic apparatus. If you're a powerlifting coach, you might need powerlifting specific plates and bars. Same with weightlifting. If you're a bodybuilder, you might need more machine-based stuff and like a studio to practice posing. But there's always a foundation that you need to build. And I would recommend 90% of personal trainers go into the industry in a commercial gym because it's about developing your craft. It's about starting at the bottom and laying the foundations.
And this is a good question in a way because it probably resonates with a lot of people, I think, especially people starting out. How do you push yourself outside of your comfort zone as a PT?
Oh, really good. Simple answer. Go and work with other personal trainers, go outside your area of expertise. So that's how I got into weightlifting. I was a powerlifter at the time. I went and did marathons, did a couple of marathons when I'd injured my back and I was told I wasn't allowed to train. This got me out of my comfort zone and I learned the skills of other coaches. And any aspect of life I've always found gets me out of my comfort zone is learning from other coaches. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the fitness industry. Yeah. It could be like golf. For instance, my coach, the way he conveys certain messages to me is great because I'm like, I can steal that for my coaching or even teaching now. I learned so much from Nathan and Jasmine and yourself that we have on the team because that craft can be developed all the time. And I think you have to have that thirst for wanting to get better. And to get better, you need to get out of your comfort zone. And to get out of your comfort zone, you need to do things that probably you'd say no to. Yeah. I'd look at it's that knowledge curve, isn't it? Where we like to think we know quite a lot, but then actually when we delve into it very deeply, we're out of our comfort zone because the parameters have changed drastically. I'd highly recommend looking at people like Naudi Aguilar. I'd look up someone called Coach Gators, who is Preston-based, fantastic coach. I'd look at sectors that you're not necessarily proficient in and try and get better in them. It might be learning about box breathing. It might be looking at the Foot Collective online, how to train your feet and the importance of that. It's something like I've been doing for 6 years and people are like, oh, Dec, have you seen this foot training? And I'm like, yeah, Daniela's had to put up with that for many years and she hates seeing my feet.
Always good. This is a key question and something that we've actually done almost a whole module on it on the mentorship because we found it that important. So how would you go about planning your time as a PT, like your day-to-day like schedule and week schedule? How do you actually go about planning that? Because you are technically self-employed. You can do what you want.
Yeah, self-employed, and the big misconception is that you can work whenever you want. That's just a pure lie, really. You need to, first of all, put the priorities in for yourself, is what I would say. So if you have children that need dropping off, picking up from school, they're obviously the priority. They're non-negotiables, aren't they? Yeah. The other thing I would put in is your own training. And then after that, you can decide where your clientels are going to fit in. And commonly, they will be 6 in the morning till 10, and then in the evening from 5 till 8. Obviously, times are changing. People are working from home more, so you might actually build your business between 10 and 3. Yep. For example, get your training done in the morning or the evening. It depends on what you need to do. If you're going for the approach of between 10 and 3 or 10 and 4 and working in the middle of the day, you might have to understand and have limited expectations on how quick your business is going to grow. Okay. So always put the most important things in your diary first and build your clientele and business around that. That's one of the big benefits of being self-employed.
Yeah, and that's kind of how you can make the business work for you and not how the business runs you. You know, it's working in
100%.
those non-negotiables you said, which is really important, and then working your clientele around that. But being flexible, because your clients will want the
100%.
time that they want.
You are ultimately running a business when you're self-employed, and that business is yourself. And it takes a lot of work, a lot of graft, a lot of effort. I was self-employed for like the best part of 13 years. And it takes a lot of like courage as well to make sure that you are there at the business. I actually found it harder to take time off and not be at work. I actually felt guilty. So it's sometimes finding that balance and making sure that you are accountable and setting clear targets and goals. It's easy to go, I'll work every hour under the sun to earn as much money as possible. But ultimately, what is that giving you?
It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. But also, what is that giving you? What's the outcome of that going to be short, medium, and long term?
Yeah, great. So maybe more looking at like a confidence side of thing then. So in terms of how to firstly stop overthinking and maybe put some of those plans into actual action. Yeah. And then also how to not be afraid to sell your packages to clients.
So yeah, I would say procrastination, fear of selling, anxiety, these are all things that are really prevalent, especially in our industry, because it feels like it can be overwhelming a lot of the time. But you know, the old analogy of just one foot in front of the other, start really small. You know, maybe every day. One thing I was taught is set your absolute priority. The origin of the word priority was always singular. Only in the 90s and 80s or something, we made it plural. So set one priority every single day. That might be to make that piece of content you've been putting off. Yeah. That might be to start your personal training profile online or business. You know, set yourself one priority every day. If I said to you there was 365 days a year and you did one thing every day that you prioritized, you'd have a very productive year.
Yeah.
So yeah, make sure you get that priority done every single day. And that would be my thing as well, is just to go and do it. I'm someone who struggles to empathize with this because I am very much I'll just try anything.
You just do it, don't you?
I'll just do it. Like if it was driving to Italy, say,
I
would just go and do it. Yeah. I'd probably like have to deal with the repercussions afterwards. Okay. But other people kind of struggle to get started, and it's easy for me to go just get started, but I'm not empathizing with them and their situation. So try and set yourself one target every day to do. You know, maybe go and do that thing that makes you uncomfortable. We talked earlier about getting out of your comfort zone. Go and do one thing that challenges you every single day. Yeah,
that's good advice. Love that. So this is something that you mentioned on podcast before about raising prices as a PT and setting a certain line or product value for PTs. How do we go about justifying that to the client and saying, right, well, I am £10 more expensive to this person, but this is the reasons why, and this is why you should still work with me?
All comes down to results. If you're getting results, you can charge pretty much whatever you want for your service.
That's very true, yeah.
We look at like someone like Starbucks and McDonald's. They charge a certain price for their products because they know exactly what you're getting. You know when you go to that service what you are getting from that service. Yeah. We're not the cheapest provider of personal training courses because we've got the best teachers and we provide the best quality. We know exactly what our product is. It's about knowing exactly what your product is offering. When I started out as a PT, I knew I wasn't experienced, so I couldn't charge as much. But as I became more experienced, I factored in price increases. And then as you become more confident and established within the industry, I would actually factor in a yearly price increase of say 5% or a biannually price increase of say 10%.
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, someone asked me the other day actually, can I run a course for them online, but this is the price that someone else is charging? And I said, no, this is the price that we charge, and here are the reasons why. Quality, tutor-led, you know, lots of FaceTime with this and this. And they came back and said, well, this person's offered this. I said, I'm sorry, but we can't do it for you. And it's about having almost like faith and confidence in the value that you add to that industry.
100%. Like, I was often kind of ridiculed for this when I was a PT, but I just genuinely couldn't care less if someone didn't want to sign up to my service. I knew what I offered was such high quality and so, like really, really good that I wouldn't necessarily be bothered if someone didn't want to serve it.
Confidence in it. Confidence in the package.
It's believing in your product. You have to be believing in it.
If you don't believe in it, it does come across to that person that you're trying to sell to as well, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Great. So this is a good question in a way, because a lot of people when they start out as PTs do get worried that, well, how quickly do I need to see those results? And, you know, at the start when we're just sort of generating leads, we haven't got many conversions, what would be maybe an ideal short-term target for any new PT? What is the realistic expectation when you start out?
Showing the process and journey. So at the start, you'll be showing all the kind of habits that you'll be changing with the client. You'll be showing all the results you're getting that are instant wins. Okay. So there's a difference. We have to think about, as a coach and a PT, I always believe coaches and PTs should look at the long-term view and how you're changing someone's health long-term. But we live in a society that people want instant wins, short-term gains, and that's seen within short-form content. So show people how they're changing their habits. Show people how you are instantly kind of adapting your practice to help their life. And this might be something as simple. In your client consultation, you've done a full mobility assessment, you've done a full postural analysis. Showcase that on social media. Tell the client this is what you've done after the session. Because don't tell them before the session, because they'll adapt what they do. Tell them after the session, this is what I've found from your postural analysis. Show them the benefits that they're getting without even knowing or paying for it potentially.
And like, as a new business owner, in that first sort of period as a new PT, how many clients do you reckon is like a realistic target to set yourself? So is it like having 2 clients per week? Like, what's realistic for everyone?
It's a snowball effect. So usually I say to PTs, very conservatively, get 1 to 2 clients in your first month is a success.
Great. Okay. That's a reasonable target, isn't it? Not too overwhelming.
Yeah, and it's managing expectations. You are developing a product and a service. Yeah. I can't wake up tomorrow and just have a new product and service ready to go. Yeah. So, you've got to have practice in it. You've got to develop experience in it. You've got to develop how you are doing it. And I would always say, just make sure that you manage your own expectations of what you expect from personal training. Yeah. It takes a minimum of 6 to 12 months to build a client base.
Yeah, I know you've said that multiple times, but it is really important, isn't it, to be fair?
The reason why people have a misconception of what you can do is because there's a lot of misinformation and rubbish on social media particularly, but online. Yeah. Always speak to the PTs that are in the gym you're looking to work at. Speak to them. Are they full? How long did it take them? Yeah. Listen to our podcasts of previous students and previous PTs that have come onto our podcast. They'll tell you the real truth. They'll tell you how hard it is to build a business. Yeah. I moved from Manchester to Preston after having a PT client base in Manchester. And when I came to Preston, I was experienced at building a new client base. So I built it in kind of like 3 or 4 months. And that's with someone who had like 6-7 years experience at this point. So it was frustrating for the other new PTs because they were like, why is he building it so quickly? But it was just the experience. When I first started, it took me ages to build my client base, so long. Like in 2011 or 12, when it was, PTing wasn't as big. Now there's a market for it. When people say to me, why are there so many PTs? It's because so many people need PTs. Yeah, yeah. Like if we look at the statistics, like there's still crazy statistic, like 30% of people are overweight and obese in the UK. There's other statistics that show how high other health concerns are, such as hypertension, like high blood pressure. We've already talked about obesity, cardiovascular and cardiorespiratory diseases are on the rise. So ultimately there needs to be more health.
There's a big push for health, isn't there? There's a big push for health.
Yeah, 100%. There's more need for that service. That's why.
Yeah, definitely. Great. So we talked a little bit before about demographics and USPs. Imagine you're in the same building with another PT. How do you stand out from the rest of them within that same building?
Be better than them. Make sure there's no reason why you can't operate in the same building as that person. There usually will be enough clientele for both of you. Yeah. Especially in a commercial gym. I always say to people, like, in the gym I worked at, there was 6,000 members. I only need 1% of them. I need 60 people to only do a session every other week. Yeah. So realistically, I needed 0.5% of that clientele. Which is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is mad. Yeah, when you look at it like that, there's always enough people. Yeah, it's just making yourself visible enough that I'm better than that person. It's not even maybe even better. It's just like showcasing yourself a little bit better.
I think there's a crazy statistic that like 60% of people in the UK need a personal trainer. 60% of people. And that's multiple millions of people. So it's crazy.
Yeah. So get into the nitty gritty of it a little bit. What apps should we use for planning? I know this is a question we get asked so often from students, well, literally everyone. What programming apps do we need to use for planning?
So unfortunately, people are looking for shortcuts all the time and they're looking for easy ways and things that are preset. And this is great if you want that preset kind of routine and habits, but ultimately you need to know how to do it from the foundation, from the absolute basics and beginnings. So for 10 years, I used Google Sheets. Right. There's nothing wrong with using Google Sheets. Absolutely free.
Which
absolutely
is basically
free.
Excel, isn't it?
Same and we before that, we would write them in by hand and give the clients out. Yeah. Some coaches still do that. Like I think it was Adlington Weightlifting Club. When I went there to train, their clients still had their writing, their programs handwritten, which is crazy, isn't it? And a lot of gyms still do it where they do maybe group session PTs where they do like the programs kind of just text out once a week. But more specifically, there is free apps. You can program and send it to a client on the Gymshark app and the MyFitnessPal app. I wouldn't recommend them per se. And there's also Quick Coach, which is it's not an app, but you can use it online. It's a browser only, and you can invite clients to join your program. If you are looking, and this would be kind of my recommendation, is to kind of invest in your business as early as possible. The sooner you can set up a process, the better it's going to be. Yeah. Something like True Coach, Easy Fit.
You always mention True Coach, if I'm honest, that's the one.
The reason I recommend True Coach is something I've used for years.
Yeah.
PT Distinction. But also think about what service you want to offer. So some of them do different things for different prices. There's ZenFit, which is so expensive, but they have loads and loads of like meal plans on there.
Okay.
So if that's what you need, great.
Yeah.
I don't need that.
Yeah, true.
You know, I'm very specific on what my service offers. Yeah. I'm happy to set calories and macronutrients for clients, and then they can go and find their own recipes. And there's stuff like Exceed Nutrition, which is a really good piece of software online that can link in with apps. The other thing that I recommend True Coach for is it can link with MyFitnessPal. So if you are tracking people's calories, it really works well. Yep. There's something called Train Heroic, which I think has become, it's got a slightly different name now, where that's more habit training.
Like the Fitter one, is it? Fitter,
yeah, Fitter is more for like CrossFit and High Rocks. So it depends what service you want to offer.
Yeah, well, that's important, isn't it? Yeah.
There's different apps available. So yeah, you need to decide which app fits your service the best.
Yeah, great. So just another question that we've got is it better to tell people your price or best to keep it secret? I think I probably know the answer to this, but good question also.
It's a shady sales tactic to kind of not show your pricing. I hate it, to be honest. I really don't like it. It's all about getting them on the call and then selling it to them. I really don't like that. My kind of approach would be just be upfront with people, be really honest with them, be authentic. This is my price. If they don't want it, they don't want it.
Be confident about it. I was just saying before about quality of product. Why would you not tell them the price? Because you're so confident in the quality of the product. It doesn't matter what the price is.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It works. If you get someone on a call and you sell them the product, it's a lot easier.
But what impression does that give to people, though, when they've been marketed and sold in that way?
100%.
It's not a good way for a long-lasting brand, is it?
No.
You know, good for a quick sale, but what about your reputation, your long-lasting brand?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I've recently been going for a kitchen, and like there's certain companies that won't tell you the price until the end, where some companies will go, these are the kitchens in this budget, these are the kitchens in this budget, these are the kitchens in this price range. And it's the same when you go for a car. You know, you need to know how much you're spending, and I think it's really important.
I completely agree with that. Great. Last question, maybe is probably more around marketing, I'm guessing, around social media, even when you're online. How do you make your personal profile stand out to other people? How do you get more eyes to that and keep them there?
The first thing that they see is your bio, so make sure your bio is hot. Make sure it is absolutely spot on for your branding and what you want.
And what would that include? What kind of things?
I would recommend something like tap links so they can go and have a look at other kind of. You might link your website if you have a website. You might link other social media forms. You might link them to a podcast if you've done a podcast. But the other thing I like to do and what I recommend to new PTs is maybe put some research studies on there to show them like the benefits of training, some of the stuff you are like believe in or where you qualified. So like on TapLink recently, I got one of our students to put their certificate on there to show that they're qualified, put their insurance document on there to show they're insured. Little things like that can really help the clientele believe in, trust in your product. The other thing I would do with that bio is maybe show your booking system or your free consultation. In that bio, grab their attention instantly. Tell them what your service is and what you offer specifically. That
niche, that USP, because if you don't, say if you're selling something very specific about weight loss coaching or posing, they need to know that that's what you're about, not that you're a PT, because that's only only one part of what you do. It's not really the specialism.
It might say something along the lines of, I help busy professionals.
Yes. Yeah.
Or are you a busy professional that needs my help?
Because if someone sees that and they are a busy professional, they'll go, oh, that's me. Allow me to look at this more.
The question needs to resonate with your customers.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, the bio is the most important thing. And then you have to kind of work around the algorithms. Instagram is the most important one at the moment, but this does change. It could change. The recommendation is like 6 stories a day. Try and get as much engagement on them. And then a minimum of 3 reels a week, ideally 5 reels a week. And I'd say that's more if you're an online coach, you want to be doing 5 reels a week because that's your main source of customers.
Okay, well, I mean, interestingly, Jenny's just asked that literal question, basically. So she's starting online, and she's like, what is a tried and tested method or schedule for posting and what to post? And then, how do I schedule that in on a monthly, weekly basis? So just touching on that, and so you'd recommend 3 reels per week as sort of a minimum, would you?
If she's doing online,
yeah,
I would say 3 reels a week if you're an in-person PT.
Oh, okay, right.
Online, you need a minimum of 5.
Yeah.
And that's just my opinion. That's what the kind of statistics and data has shown.
Yeah.
We do a lot of analytics around this. But also, if you're doing stories, it needs to be 6 stories a day. And some people say, how do you get stories? Like, how can you have so many stories a week? Or a day, sorry. But, it can be your everyday from your breakfast to what you're doing.
Yeah. Rough copy, isn't it? It doesn't have to be edited. Rough copy, isn't it? Yeah.
It is very much rough copy. Short form has been very successful. So maybe even shorter reels. They can all, might only have to be 30 seconds.
Doesn't have to be long, does it?
No, 100%. So it's just about engaging with your custom and making sure that you're showing off your unique selling point. Make sure you're showing off your products and services. Making sure that your content you produce resonates.
Yeah.
Your content is your sales booklet. 10, 20 years ago, you would get a leaflet through a door. You might get a booklet saying these are the products we offer. That's what social media is now. So you need to make sure that that's as good quality as possible.
Yeah. And you always say to me about consistency.
Yeah.
So if you're going to post 5 times a week, make sure you always post 5 times a week. Maybe even if you're on holiday, maybe bank some content and schedule your 100%. Posting. Always be consistent. I think the algorithm, I'm right in thinking, actually promotes consistency.
So the whole point of social media is to get eyeballs to that platform. So if you're creating content, they're going to reward you with eyeballs. And that's the whole point of it. It works for them.
Get
it works
more people.
For you.
Capture those people.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're only posting once a week, why would they send more people to you?
Yeah, because you're not investing in their platforms. Why would they invest in you?
Exactly.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, great. And this is a good question actually from Jenny as well. So she just set up. Do you set up on different apps, i.e. programming apps, like software apps, Calendly apps, before you get a client, or do you wait until you've got a client and then do it? I mean, I think I probably know the answer to this because you need your processes in place, but
I'm a big believer in getting your processes set up because that makes me feel comfortable. I like to be organized and have things set up first.
Yeah.
But I also know PTs that it's worked well for, like getting the client and then setting it up because they need to be kind of like the gun to the head approach, where they need to have to do it before they will do it. Well, I like to be kind of organized and ready to go. Yeah,
I like quite the idea of mapping out your client journey. So you're thinking, right, well, if I'm going to collect this lead, what journey does the client take? Do they go through an email? Do they go through a form? They get this email, they click this link, they go to Calendly, they go to pay. Like, what's your customer journey from lead to client?
I think thinking of your customer journey is really, really important. So make sure you understand everything that they're doing. You might even be able to show the client your app as kind of a sales tactic, as a sales approach, to show them what service they're getting and buying into. Yeah. But we're just going to take a little break there, and then we'll join you with part 2 for the last couple of questions.
Okay, so moving on to a question now from Emma. And this is an interesting set of questions. I kind of pull them in together because I think it's very different. So she's asking about virtual PT. So maybe just start explaining what is virtual PT, because it's not online PT. What's this that she's referencing?
No, so there is a big differentiation with this. So online personal training is often online programming with check-ins, kind of video review. Yeah. And that's kind of like post video review or pre-video review. But virtual PT is more live. Okay. So it's more trying to get the one-to-one approach via video. Yeah. It is a concept that has been tried previously and hasn't really worked, usually due to technical difficulties. I know, for instance, in 2020 and 2021, we did this as a gym. mainly because of COVID. So we tried to speak to people online, and it actually worked relatively well using platforms such as Zoom and Teams.
Yeah.
And I actually think it's an area that is untapped and that is going to absolutely take off soon. So I think it's a really good topic to discuss. But yeah, virtual PT, the obvious benefit is the mass reach you can get.
Yeah.
But Emma specifically asks about the technicalities of it and how to do it. And I think you have to have a professional setup. You need a really good live camera. You need ideally a good mic setup, but also like really good Wi-Fi. We actually had Abby on the podcast, and she told me off pod that she she does a live workout. Yeah. So I know it's getting bigger. She does it as a group session, and then she uploads it afterwards. Yeah. And that's really good because people can go back and watch that workout. I don't know, you probably remember in the 90s, workout videos were really popular. Like you might buy a video.
All the celebs have a workout video, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. All the celebs had it, toned abs and abs in 6 weeks, all this rubbish. Yeah. Where now you can get really reputable professionals being able to deliver it a lot easier. And the big difference that has happened in the last 30 years is technology has got better. Yep. The production cost of that would have been huge, and that's why they had to sell a lot of them. Where now the production cost, it may be a big outlay to start with, but like we said earlier, the reach is going to be so big. And I think to people like busy parents or professionals who are not necessarily going to have the time or access to a personal trainer in person, this is fantastic. Obviously, there is limitations. So what you can coach is very difficult. I am not the biggest advocate of online coaching and virtual PT because of my service is very hands-on. Right. In terms of, I like to being able to adapt people's technique in person, but I do online coaching and I use something called Iron Bar Path, and I look at their videos and I can kind of, similar to what Skillist does with golf, I can kind of analyze their movement, where with virtual PT, it's not as easy. Yeah. Kind of you're doing it live and you're requiring the client to have a really good camera to be able to see it clearly in the technique. And then I think there's a new skill set that will be required with communication, and that'll be vital to how you do virtual PT, because you'll have to convey your messages via obviously speaking to the client and the way you communicate with them, where I do a mixture of like kinesthetic communication where I might actually move the client into a position. You won't be physically able to do that. So virtual PT is something that's massive. It's going to take off soon. I'd highly recommend, if you are going to do it, get yourself a really good camera, maybe like a wireless mic set, and like some sort of specific area within your home, a gym, a studio, where you can deliver it from. Yep. Put the attention into the back end, and then there's a lot of softwares that you can use live sessions on now. Teams, Zoom, there is other ones as well, such as like YouTube Live, Instagram Live. Yeah. And I think as people get better smartphones, they will be able to get better cameras. It'll all just keep developing and snowballing.
So if someone actually wanting to go out there and do that, what kind of prices could you charge realistically? Because it's not a one-to-one PT and it's also not an online program. So
I would charge the same price as you would for an in-person PT. It's still one-to-one. You're still taking an hour out of your time.
That's very true. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Okay.
Obviously, the overheads are potentially less in terms of you're not going to have monthly rent, but you've just outlaid for camera equipment, microphones. So you still have that outlay. True. I would still charge the same because it's still an hour out of your time. And I would make sure you're specific. If you're going to be a virtual PT, you might move from online to specifically just virtual, and make sure that's your kind of USP, your remit. And you would be working primarily with general pop clients who just need to be moving a little bit more.
Yeah, because like you say, that technical correction can't always be given in much.
And also
detail.
limit of equipment.
Yeah,
home,
true.
I've got, like, in my head, the way I would like to do it, if I was doing it for myself, but I wouldn't do it, is if I would say maybe set up a product where you send out a kettlebell, a changeable dumbbell, and like a red band or a set of resistance bands.
a package
and when
for
the
them
client
to
signs
have.
Up for you, they have to sign up for, say, a minimum of 12 weeks. You send that product out to the client, so they get it, and then they've got something to work out, because then you're managing and limiting variables of what they've got. So you've got an adjustable dumbbell, you've got maybe even an adjustable kettlebell and some resistance bands, and it will work fantastically well.
And also you could get them logoed up, you could check
Yeah,
the quality
100%.
of the products, you could really raise your brand awareness on social media. That sounds quite cool.
I wake up sometimes with like a million ideas and I write them down on notes. So that is one of the ideas I've had for many a year now, is kind of having like a branded service that you could package and send out to someone and get them set up. Might even be a tripod as well, so that they can do the session with you live.
Because then because you have to really be wary about the quality of it, and you don't want, the thing with clients is they pay for something, they expect high quality, and if something doesn't work properly, i.e. their phone, their Wi-Fi, they'll only just blame it on you
100%.
and have a bad experience from you as a product, right?
You know, with a little bit of inception, we do this podcast in person. We don't allow people to come on via Teams or Zoom because we don't know what their camera and audio quality will be. This is something we can manage and control our environment.
Yes, I think that's really important. So, I mean, that sounds quite good. We should do that. That sounds fun. Great. So moving on just to the very last question from Jamie, and it's more of a question for everyone. I know with online, how do you offer online packages? Is it best to offer a set package, or are you trying to replicate one-to-one coaching, but in an online space? What's the best approach for this? I mean, Jamie's given an example here he says he's working on an 8 to 12 week program through an app and then offering alongside it some support, i.e. maybe some chat support, and then nutritional coaching like one-to-one on chat.
It's a fantastic question. So there's the online coaching space is lawless. You know, it's unregulated, so there's lots of different services. But in my head, the three main services that work really well is there's online coach, which is kind of like they do your monthly programming, you do weekly or monthly check-ins, and they might manage your nutrition. Then there's the virtual PT, which we've just discussed about. You actually jump on a live session with the person. This might be as a group, it might be on a one-to-one. Then there's what Jamie is suggesting potentially, which is you just sell them the program. They do
pre-packaged program,
12 weeks, something like that. They might do an 8-week or a 12-week, and then they sign up to that package. Again, this is one of the ideas I have, and I've seen it kind of rolled out recently, but it's not as prevalent as it could be, and I think this would work really well, is on True Coach, you can sign someone up to, say, a group session, and you update the programming weekly or monthly, and people sign up to that, and it might only be £5 a month, but it's a group program, say like a Monday, Wednesday and a Friday, and then you're paying £5 a month for your programming. That could be something really good for Jamie, because you're getting out to the masses and you're not doing much work, you're doing one program a month.
Great.
So with 8 to 12 weeks, that is an important time frame, because that is the minimum a client needs to work with you to see results, in my opinion. And I think that's where Jamie's coming from. With regards to nutrition coaching, you've got a couple of options here. You can set recommendations for macronutrients, although be realistic, how many clients are going to count macros to the T? Probably very little. So maybe set calorie targets. Maybe set very basic nutritional habits, such as how much water are they drinking, how many meals are they having, how much protein are they having,
that kind of
portion
stuff,
size. These things are really important. Think about the real world application. Other nutritional ideas are you could pair with a nutrition coach, where you do like maybe a monthly nutritional advice workshop. We used to do these in my gym. Clients would come in, they would bring in their recipes, they would tell other clients about their recipes, and we would have a nutritionist deliver on some basic nutritional knowledge, because I think the key is to upskill people by telling them how nutrition works, because there's a lot of misinformation. And the last option, and this is the one I use for my gym, was use something like Exceed, which is a white label product service where you can get all these recipe plans, and there's like 400 or 500 pages of recipes. You put all your branding on it, you upload it as a document to your app. So I use True Coach, and my clients would have access to this, so they could pick their recipes, and it's a little bit like a budget. And that's how I used to explain it to clients. They would have 1,200 calories or £1,200. They might split their calories or budget however they want. For breakfast, they might blow £600 of their budget, or 600 calories. For breakfast, they might save some calories or budget and only do 100 or 200. And that's the kind of three processes you could do with nutrition coaching. And it's very similar to online as it is for one-to-one PT. It depends how much nutrition you feel like you need to offer. As a weightlifting and powerlifting coach, mine was very minimal, mainly because I'm not that passionate about nutrition. My knowledge and experience is good enough for what I need it to deliver and do, but it isn't my kind of speciality. So I wouldn't profess or pretend that that's what I'm offering you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just going back to something Emma asked here, where she said consulting virtually. This is important for all online coaches. Consultations, again, book them in as maybe free taster sessions or as a sales process.
Yeah, great. Awesome. I think that's all our questions, guys. I mean, that was a lot of questions, but also some pretty useful questions, I would imagine.
Very, very useful. Thank you very much for all the questions, guys. If you are interested in the mentorship, you get free 30 days. So go and check it out. What have you got to lose for free 30 days?
Absolutely. Great. All right. Well, all the best, and we'll see you on the next pod.